8 years ago, my husband found out that I was cheating on him with my employer. Make sure to subscribe for more Viewing Tales videos. I lost all sense of direction in my life 8 years ago. On that fateful night, my husband Tom learned of my affair with my boss David. This discovery was not accidental. Tom had grown suspicious over time. Everything mounted up: working late hours, unanticipated business travels, and the growing gap in our marriage. The expression on his face when he revealed the truth, though, was completely unexpected. The couple's romantic involvement had been short-lived. A chain reaction of poor decisions was set in motion during a difficult period in our marriage. David was an energetic, successful man who appeared to get my home issues more thoroughly than Tom did. I had been an employee of the company for 5 years. A lot more developed out of what began as light-hearted chatter. I knew it was wrong, but the excitement of secrecy made me feel like the risk was worth it. Unfortunately, I was incorrect. By nightfall, Tom had located the emails, clearly visible proof of my treachery. Of course, I didn't dispute that. That was pointless. Seeing the pain, fury, and disbelief all on his face made it hard to process anything at once. Without further ado, he left the house and did not return for 2 days. It felt like the longest 2 days of my life to me. It was planned that he would return with a suitcase and try again. This time, for sure. All of it was unclear. I decided to take a leave of absence since I couldn't confront David. Going into that office and pretending like nothing was happening seemed like the inconceivable. Upon Tom's immediate filing for divorce, I made no objections. The harm I had done to our marriage could never be repaired. Leaving our house, I checked into a little apartment across town. Nobody knew who I was, which was nice because it had been a while since I'd experienced that. Divorce was finalized 6 months later. Since we didn't have any children, it was easier from a legal one, but emotionally, it was extremely tough. Our families had known one another for a long time, and the impacts were far-reaching. The beloved ones choose sides. Not everyone stayed to take a stand, some simply dispersed. It was still bad that I was alone, even though I knew I was to blame. My employment at David's business was terminated, but I eventually returned to the workforce. The constant stream of workplace chit-chat and the sympathetic or critical looks from my coworkers were too much for me to bear. I found a new work at a smaller company that didn't know my history. Though it was a new beginning, the feelings of shame and regret lingered. I did my best to distract myself by immersing myself in my work, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost touch with reality. In the years that followed, I struggled to put my life back together. I sought therapy in order to comprehend my decision-making process and the rationale behind endangering my marriage for an insignificant cause. Much more crucial than the affair were the concerns that had been building since before David became involved. I knew I needed to tell Tom how I really felt and make amends in our marriage, but I was too ashamed to do either. I had taken the easy way out and sought a solution elsewhere. Tom had apparently moved on, according to mutual acquaintances. He went on to find love approximately 1 year following his divorce. Emily was someone very different from me. She was genuine, sensible, and compassionate. Hearing that they were happy together made me feel better. It seemed like he had finally found someone who could provide him with the stability I had been missing. I saw Tom again at a wedding 3 years after we split up. Since all had transpired, we hadn't laid eyes on each other. We tried to break the ice with our warm greetings, but the distance was just too great. I felt the remorse creep back in, and I could see the anguish in his eyes. I doubted he could ever forgive me, and I doubted I could forgive myself. In an effort to make a fresh start, I persisted in attending therapy sessions. I became a member of a group that helps people who have been through infidelity, whether as a victim or a perpetrator. Hearing about other people's stories helped me see things more clearly and understand how my actions would affect others. The affair had wounded Tom and me, and I knew it. Since it had warped my sense of self-worth, I felt compelled to address it. By the 6th year after my divorce, I had finally found peace. Something I had always wanted to do but never had the guts to do. Start a small business was something my new job buddy and I had accomplished. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally felt like I was contributing to something worthwhile. That was better than nothing. But it couldn't make up for the life I'd lost. It was only a fresh start. Around this time, I learned that Tom had proposed to Emily. I was experiencing a wide range of emotions as I perused the social media photographs. For some reason, I felt happy for him. Despite my knowledge that he was deserving of every bit of love and happiness that the world could offer, A part of me lamented the life that may have been mine had I been more resilient, forthright, and selfless. 8 years have passed since that fateful night. The first child born to Tom and Emily is a newborn. As soon as I heard the news, I penned a note to wish them well and offer my congratulations. A few weeks later, Tom contacted me, which caught me off guard as I wasn't expecting a reply. He thanked me for the card and then wanted to know if we might grab coffee sometime. I wanted to talk about some things, not to rekindle anything, but to give closure, stated the man. It was like reconnecting with an old friend after a long absence. Our first impressions of each other were both familiar and strangely distant. We discussed our lives, where we had ended up, and the ways in which we had changed. Even though the affair had devastated Tom, he had also realized that we were both to blame for the disintegration of our marriage, as he told me. He felt bad about how careless he had been with our relationship and how he had failed to notice the red flags. His assurance that I was no longer the story's antagonist was reassuring, but it didn't erase the horror of my acts. He insisted that he had forgave me so he could rest easy, and not because I deserved it. He claimed it took him a long time to figure out that he was hurting himself by repressing his rage. He needed to release his attachment to his old life and family in order to make room for his new one. We bid farewell, content in the knowledge that the experience had contributed to our development. No passionate reconciliation or rekindling of past passions took place. A more subtle acknowledgement that we had shared certain life experiences together and that chapter was ended prevailed. My business, which I am still running, has grown beyond my wildest dreams. I'm being more cautious and aware of my wants and needs now that I'm dating again, rather than chasing after temporary pleasures or distractions. I have come to understand that true happiness comes from the slow, steady process of creating a life of which I can be proud. Despite being the worst decision I'd ever made, the affair taught me more about who I am than I could have ever dreamed. Thank goodness I have changed so much in the past 8 years. Thanks to this experience, I am better able to recognize my shortcomings, tell myself the truth, and work to improve. The decisions I make now will have consequences in the future, yet I can't change the past. The difficulty of the weight, however, reduces as time goes on. Despite the fact that my marriage ended, I gained a new identity,